I'm Ruby. Standing on the balcony of my new penthouse overlooking the Chicago River, I feel a sense of peace and freedom that I haven't experienced in a long time. The city glimmers below me, and the soft breeze carries the sounds of life. Behind me, Lena is studying at the dining table, and Austin will be here soon for dinner. It's hard to believe how far I've come from the dark days I endured. It all started with a divorce hearing. The gray light of an early October morning cast long shadows across the marble floors of the Cook County Circuit Court. I sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, trying to stay composed. Across the room, my soon-to-be ex-husband, Ethan, walked in with an air of confidence. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his watch glittering under the overhead lights. His smirk was full of the kind of triumph that didn't need to be spoken. The hearing began with the usual formalities. Ethan's attorney stood up, straightening his tie. "Your Honor," he said, "my client, Ethan, seeks primary rights to the marital residence, the lakeside cabin in Wisconsin, the Mercedes-Benz GLE, and all joint savings and investment accounts. Ethan has shouldered the financial burden of this marriage for years. It is only fair that these assets remain with him." I took a deep breath and slowly rose to my feet. "I waive all claims," I said, my voice steady. The judge, Judge Thompson, looked up sharply. "Ms. Ruby, you understand what that means. You are relinquishing your legal right to every marital asset listed before the court." "I understand," I replied calmly. Ethan couldn't hide his disbelief. He let out a muffled laugh and quickly typed a message on his phone. I knew exactly who he was messaging: his mistress, Lily. She was a young and ambitious woman, nearly 15 years younger than Ethan. After the judge confirmed that I was not under pressure, I signed the stack of documents one by one. When the final signature was placed, all the marital property was officially transferred to Ethan. He exhaled triumphantly, already imagining his celebration. I simply gathered my handbag, thanked the court staff, and walked out. Outside the courthouse, I sent a message. "Everything's ready. See you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Then I disappeared into the crowds of downtown Chicago. I made my way to a cafe across the street. The aroma of roasted coffee filled the air, grounding me as the events of the courtroom echoed in my mind. There I met Mr. Harris, an attorney in his early 60s. He had a serious and professional demeanor. "Ruby," he greeted me softly, "I'm afraid I have difficult news. Your father passed away last week." The news hit me like a ton of bricks. My father had been absent from my life for years, but this finality still felt sharp. He continued, "He named you as his sole heir. You now own Ruby Auto Group, 5 dealerships across the Chicago region, valued between $18 million and $24 million. He then handed me a sealed envelope with my father's handwriting on it. I carefully broke the seal and read the letter. In the letter, my father explained that Ethan had threatened him. Years ago, Ethan had shown up demanding money and influence. When my father refused, Ethan threatened to expose fabricated scandals that would destroy the business. Terrified of losing everything he'd built and believing that distance would protect me, my father cut me out. He apologized for the pain and the years of absence. This revelation made me realize the full extent of Ethan's betrayal. I knew I had to dig deeper. I met my longtime friend, Sarah, in a quiet conference room at a downtown bank. She had worked hard to get me the information I needed. She showed me loan agreements. 3 separate accounts had been opened in my name over the past 2 years, with a total balance between $400,000 and $550,000. Every line of credit was maxed out, and payment schedules were overdue. The risk classifications were marked in red. "These aren't mine," I murmured. "I know," Sarah replied, "but the system thinks differently. Ethan used your identity to open these accounts." She then showed me wire transfers, cash withdrawals, and payment records. Every dollar had gone into Ethan's failing dealership business. She also pointed out obvious forgeries in the signature fields. And I remembered the nights when Ethan had shoved forms across the kitchen island, telling me they were just routine business documents. I had trusted him and signed without reading. As if that wasn't enough, Sarah showed me employment verification forms, fake pay stubs, and fabricated tax filings, all showing me as a high-earning corporate officer in Ethan's company. He had done all this to get the banks to approve the loans. That same evening, I returned to my small apartment. There was a firm knock at the door. It was Mr. Clark, the private investigator I had hired weeks ago. He handed me a thick black folder. "I have everything," he said. Inside the folder were photographs of Ethan and Lily. They were laughing and walking hand in hand on the streets of River North. Mr. Clark told me this had been going on for 3 years. He also showed me photos of Ethan entering Lily's expensive loft and Lily riding in the Mercedes-Benz. Every payment for Lily's loft traced back to the fraudulent loans opened under my identity. Ethan had rerouted the funds through his business accounts to pay for her luxury lifestyle. Mr. Clark also showed me spreadsheets, bank statements, and internal reports. His dealership group was drowning in debt. Without the fraudulent credit lines tied to my name, his business would have collapsed 2 years ago. Meanwhile, Ethan was celebrating at a fancy steakhouse with Lily. They ordered the most expensive dishes and champagne. Ethan felt invincible, thinking he had won. He didn't know that the truth was about to catch up with him. The next morning, Ethan's phone started ringing non-stop. The North Shore Credit Union called to demand payment of an outstanding balance of $120,000. Then Liberty Bank Chicago called about a $180,000 line of credit. And Midland Commercial Lending called regarding a $100,000 business loan. Under Illinois law, since Ethan had accepted all the marital assets in the divorce, he was now responsible for all the debts tied to those assets. He was in a panic. He rushed to his attorney's office, but his attorney, Mr. Green, told him the banks were right. His empire was collapsing. Ethan then came to my apartment, angry and panicked. "What the hell did you do? The banks are calling non-stop. They're saying I owe everything," he shouted. I looked at him calmly and said, "I never opened those accounts, Ethan. You did. You forged my signatures and tricked me into signing documents." He tried to deny it at first, but as I explained everything, his fury faltered. He finally realized that he had set himself up. "This can't be happening," he whispered. "It is, and it's legal," I replied. I then picked up my coat and handbag and walked past him, telling him I had more important work to do. Lily was also furious when she found out about Ethan's financial troubles. She threw him out of her loft, saying she didn't want to live with a man who couldn't cover his own debt. At Ethan's dealership, things were falling apart. Financing partners canceled pending contracts, and suppliers demanded upfront payment. His Mercedes-Benz was towed away right in front of his employees. By the end of the week, his home, the lakeside cabin, and all his investment accounts were seized. Ethan was desperate. He came to a meeting at a law firm, begging me to help him. "Ruby, please. I can fix this. I'll give everything back," he said, his voice cracking. But I knew his business was underwater. "There is no us," I told him firmly. Finally, Ethan was under investigation for identity theft, forgery, and large-scale financial fraud. Investigators presented evidence of his crimes, including forged signatures and false documents. He was booked into the Cook County Jail. The courtroom was packed for his trial. I testified calmly, presenting evidence that I couldn't have signed the loan documents during certain periods because I was hospitalized. My testimony was crucial in bringing the truth to light. In the end, Ethan was sentenced to 2 years of probation, mandatory financial oversight, and full restitution totaling approximately $450,000. Judge Thompson commended me for my composure and integrity throughout the proceedings. 3 months after the verdict, I stepped into the executive office of Ruby Auto Group, which my father had built. The employees respected me, and under my leadership, the company began to thrive. I streamlined operations, renegotiated supplier contracts, and introduced efficient digital platforms. I also founded the Grace Foundation, named after my mother, to help women facing financial abuse. At the launch event, I met an old college classmate, Dr. James. He was a kind and gentle cardiologist. We talked for a long time, and he asked me out for dinner. I said yes, and our relationship grew slowly and steadily. Through the foundation, I met Lena, a 20-year-old college student who had escaped an abusive home. I saw myself in her, and I decided to open my home to her. It was a new beginning for both of us. As I stand here on the balcony, looking at the city, I know that I've reclaimed my life. I've learned that freedom, dignity, and self-respect are far more valuable than any material possessions. I'm no longer the woman who was once deceived and betrayed. I'm a strong, independent woman, leading a new life and looking forward to the future.